sleep basics. We're halfway through our 100 days of focus, and I thought I would be remiss if, in addition to exercise, healthy eating, a mindfulness practice, I didn't talk about that fourth other secret weapon, and that is sleep. Hello, I'm Sandhya, and welcome to Dynamic Living. We all think of sleep as a nice to have. Theoretically, we know that we should be getting 7, 8, or 9 hours of sleep, but in reality, it's usually a far cry from that. Well, here we're going to talk about what's probably not nice to have, and that is cardiovascular disease, diabetes, poor hormonal regulation, obesity, depression, death even. Very personally speaking, I lost a friend. He was in peak health. He was a runner. He worked hard. He ran marathons. But you know what? He averaged about 4 hours of sleep every night. Doctors couldn't think of any other reason why he would have a sudden heart attack at the age of 40-something that he did. We know these stories, and yet our sleep is really poor. Let's start with the why of things. Honestly, science doesn't know yet why we should be spending about 1/3 of our lives, just doing nothing. From an evolutionary perspective, it's absolutely mystifying why we should be prostrate, paralyzed almost for this much of our lives when we're vulnerable to all the nocturnal animals and, we have absolutely nothing to protect ourselves with. What we do know are all the functions that take place when we sleep. Besides preventing all of these diseases, the time we sleep is when our brain grows, is when we encode new memories. It's literally like a wash for our brain and spinal cord, cleaning out all the toxins and preparing us for a next day ahead, fully refreshed and on the go. You would have felt it yourself the morning after a night of poor sleep if you've tried to work out, do a run, or even get into a meeting. Your performance at best is suboptimal. So let's get down to the basics. We know that there are different stages to sleep. It's common knowledge, and you can easily Google that. I'll share a link down below as well. The fact of the matter is, we need to be going through 4 or 5 of these cycles of REM and non-REM sleep. And the first cycle takes about 90 minutes, and the next few will take between 100 and 120 minutes each. If you do the math on that, it works out to about 8-something hours of sleep, 8-point-something hours of sleep. Now, how much sleep you need varies for different people, what your day has been like, what your stress levels are like, what your activity levels are like, indeed just what your own constitution is like. But we know that fewer than 7 hours of sleep is suboptimal at best. Yet the temptations are so strong. But let me give you 5 very compelling reasons why we probably should be prioritizing sleep. 1, in today's competitive world, we shallow sleepers, we sleep sippers are competing with the fully rested people. Guess who's going to win in the long run? Number 2, we're living longer. All those lifestyle diseases that I talked about, it's one thing if our life expectancy was 50 or 60 years and, you just had to live with all of these diseases for like 4 or 5 years. Today, we're living to closer to 100 years. Think about living for half of your life or more with these diseases. Number 3, we're not just competing with the well-rested. We're also competing with artificial intelligence that is supremely good at concentration and monotasking. And here, we're not just multitasking, but we're also tired and we're losing concentration because of our lack of sleep. Number 4, sleep wreaks havoc with our hormones. We get less and less time than ever with our friends and family. And if we're constantly on edge, irritated, ready to spring, fight, start an argument, it doesn't bode very well for our long-term relationships. 5, lack of sleep will eventually kill you. Let's make no bones about that. It also exacerbates everything, and it casts a sort of pall of gloom over your entire day. Is this really the life that you want to be leading just for those few extra hours of television time at night? So how are we going to make changes? I can tell you that I was a chronic poor sleeper. Everything that I wanted to do happened late into the night, but I knew I had to wake up in the morning because I had kids and work to get to. My life simply changed after I started practicing sleep hygiene. I now average about 7 or 7.5 hours a night. I know that for my lifestyle, 8 would be ideal, but that is for me personally. It's for you to decide what works for you. Again, there are 100 articles that talk about what good sleep hygiene is. But there are a few things that you can start with since we're on this 100 days of focus. For myself, I've just said no more OTT or other digital distractions till the end of the year. You can think about what sort of rule you want to make for yourself. There, I've said it publicly, now I better follow it. Number 2, rediscover the joy of reading. Not only does this calm our brains, it takes us away from our daily life, it could give us a fantasy world to escape to, but there is a theory that says that if you read something that you want to learn, like a new language or a new concept that you're trying to learn, if you read it just before you go to sleep, it could actually seep into your subconscious while you're sleeping. Try it, see if it works, let me know. Number 3, use technology to help you. There are many apps and devices out there that you can use just to get you to understand what your baseline is and what you need to get to. I use an app called Sleep Cycle that my professor recommended, and I was appalled at how bad my sleep cycles actually were. They're getting better now, but eventually, don't let an app stress you out and cause you that much anxiety that you can't actually sleep. And we all want to get to a point where we learn to trust our body, trust our instincts, and just respond to the patterns and needs intuitively rather than be dependent on a device. As Ernest Hemingway said, I love sleep. My life has a tendency to fall apart when I'm awake, and it will if you don't get that sleep. Sleep tight and share your sleep stories with me.